So as we now head into a new international break, I thought it would be a good time to have a look in on the Bookies' updated end of season odds for the Championship. And in today's video we'll be seeing just how much those odds have changed since the last international break. If you are going to enjoy today's video, make sure to leave a like. 300 likes will be massively appreciated. And also, if you're not already, make sure to go over to the TikTok and give that account a follow. We are posting regularly over there at the moment. I'll also be interested to get your verdict on some of these Bookies predictions as well, because they've made a fair few changes from last time. Without any further ado though, let's jump in. So I think we may as well group the bottom three as a bit of a collective, as the Bookies have made no changes whatsoever in this department since the last international break. The Bookies still have Rotherham in 24th, Sheffield Wednesday in 23rd and QPR in 22nd. Now I don't think a lot of people would disagree with that bottom three, but I think you could have quite a debate over the order that the Bookies currently have these three sides placed. For Sheffield Wednesday, they are cut adrift at the bottom of the league at the moment, having only won one of their first 16 matches, but the Bookies still have them with better survival odds than Rotherham, which I find really interesting. Obviously, Rotherham recently made the decision to part company with Matt Taylor, and I'm interested to see where the club goes from here, because their underlying data really hasn't been good so far. They've taken fewer shots than any Championship club. They've faced the second most amount of shots. They've conceded more goals than any other Championship club, and that's despite, for me, having a very good keeper, one of the best in the league in fact. Rotherham's setup away from home certainly hasn't helped them, but maybe a change of manager is just what they are in need of to get that bit of a bounce maybe in this next stage of the season heading into the festive period. I, like a lot of people, I think have cut Sheffield Wednesday off at this point. I'm not sure where a change in their fortunes is going to come unless they were to have a masterstroke in January. I just look at that team at the moment and don't think it's good enough to survive, irrespective of who's in charge at the moment. I think they're drained of confidence and drained of quality really in the final third. And then QPR as that last relegation spot. I think if I had to put money on it right now, which club do I think probably has the most chance of climbing out of this? And maybe I would throw QPR into that. I just think they've got that little bit more quality in their starting 11 especially than the likes of Sheffield Wednesday and Rotherham have. Obviously, it's Cifuentes who's recently come in there. 2 games, 2 draws for him. Still in the early stages of figuring things out, but no real surprises that the bottom 3 in real life is the Bookies' bottom 3 based on the relegation odds right now. Then just above that dotted line, the Bookies do have Huddersfield, who have actually fallen in this table by 1 place since we last did this video, and I think that's probably a pretty fair estimation. Darren Moore hasn't really been able to inspire much of a bounce since he's arrived at Huddersfield. I'd also chuck them into the category of those 3 in the bottom 3 right now, where there isn't that much quality in the team. They have found goals really hard to come by, and they've also got one of the worst defensive records in the league as well. Just 4 points above the dotted line, and with only 3 wins from 16 this season, I do still have quite a few worries over Huddersfield. In 20th place, the Bookies then have Plymouth, who have been a lot of fun so far this season. Despite that, it is worth pointing out that they only have 1 more point on the board than Huddersfield do, and I think that people, neutrals especially, look on at Plymouth and Huddersfield in very different ways, but there's only 1 point to separate them at this stage. I think the reason a lot of people do that is because Plymouth games this season have been so much fun to watch as a neutral, with plenty of goals going in at either side. And if you look at the goal scoring figures for Plymouth so far this season, it blows everyone else below them really out of the water. I mean, they've almost scored double the amount of goals than pretty much every team that's currently below them in the league. And I think despite that shakiness at the back, which will lead to a few hammerings going against them this season, I think that's their real ace up their sleeve, get out of jail card, especially at home. Then in 19th place, an absolutely disastrous faller from last time, we have Birmingham. Last time we did this video, the Bookies were really quite high on Birmingham, but so much has changed since we last did one of these videos, obviously, making the controversial decision to get rid of John Eustace. In comes Wayne Rooney, and it's not been the smoothest start to his tenure at St Andrews, I think it's fair to say. Still going in search of his first win, and in that time they have had some tough fixtures to contend with, which is worth throwing out there. With that being said, it does feel like Birmingham have taken quite a leap backwards from when we last spoke about them in this regard at the last international break. You know, if we're to take Rooney's form as Birmingham's boss so far in isolation, it's relegation form right now. In 18th place, the Bookies then have Swansea. Now, this is a bump up of 1 place from where they previously had them. They had them in 19th last time. Been quite a bit of inconsistency at Swansea of late. There was one stage of the season where it really seemed like Duff had nailed things. In and around the end of September, they went on a decent run, but since that point, they've only won 1 of their last 5 matches. Now, have been involved in some pretty tight matches where a lot of the times they've just been on the wrong end of, but it is ironing out that consistency, which is going to be crucial for Swansea. 17th place, the Bookies then have Millwall. Now, Millwall are a really interesting one. Towards the end of Rowett, didn't really feel like they were going anywhere this season, but now with Edwards in the hot seat, suddenly Millwall could be a bit of a dark horse to fly up the Championship. Now, I know we have to take Edwards' first game against Sheffield Wednesday with a pinch of salt because, let's face it, Wednesday have been by far and away the worst side in the Championship this season. I think that on their showing, a few teams could have put 4 goals past them, but it's a new dynamic, a new philosophy that's coming into Millwall, something that they've probably been in desperate need of, that bit more of an attacking spark about their play, and long term, I'm really interested to see how Edwards gets on. So the Bookies have them falling by 1 place. Myself personally, I think I'd be a bit more positive of their chances of climbing the league right now. In 16th place, the Bookies then have Coventry. They're a faller of 7 places from last time, but this is still higher up than where they are in the league table right now. Swansea just haven't been able to nail any consistency whatsoever this season. They have had problems at both ends of the pitch. It's ultimately just 3 wins from their first 16 matches. And right now they're only 5 points above the relegation zone. I don't think that many people would have predicted this from Coventry at the start of the season. Given the trajectory it looked like they were on last season, making it into the top 6. I think because they have that previous track record to fall back on, and I've been a little bit more positive about them recently, especially when they have gone to a back 4. They are a club that I expect to see climb in the league, but it feels like in doing these videos, we've been saying that for the past few weeks and months with Coventry, where we've all been in a collective, oh, they'll turn it around eventually, but so far that's not happened, and it's only so many times you can continue saying that before Coventry do find themselves in a really sticky position. The Bookies then have Bristol City in 15th place. This is a faller of 2 places from last time. Obviously, quite a bit of change at Ashton Gate since we last did one of these videos. Quite the surprising departure of Nigel Pearson. Felt like he was doing a very solid job in slow and steady progress up the league, but the board there taking the bold decision to part company with him, and ultimately we're now in the very early days of seeing what Liam Manning's capable of, and there's not really all too much we can read into his tenure at the club so far. In 14th place, the Bookies then have Norwich, a huge faller from last time. They've dropped down 9 places in the Bookies' overall rankings from the last international break, which is an absolutely ginormous fall from grace. And I mean, Norwich have been on this disastrous run recently leading up to the international break, and then all of a sudden, David Wagner was able to pull that rabbit out from the hat with that comeback away at Cardiff, winning it 3-2, but it did feel like a result which has massively papered over the cracks of what has been a disastrous run of form for Norwich recently. They have been plenty of fun to watch this season. They've scored 29 goals so far. That's the same amount that Leicester have scored, and they're currently sitting top. But what's been their real Achilles heel has been at the opposite end of the pitch. Along with Rotherham, they've got the worst defensive record in the league, having conceded 32 goals. And based on the way they set up, the personnel available to them, and Wagner in the hot seat, I'm not sure I can see that changing. Then to round off the bottom of the table, the Bookies then have Blackburn Rovers. They have actually jumped up in 2 places since we last did one of these videos. Now, Blackburn, I would also say, have been quite a lot of fun so far this season. They play some really tidy football. They get into a lot of goal-scoring positions. Sometimes their finishing has let them down, and they do tend to face a lot of chances. But with that being said, it's quite a young spine of players, and sometimes that inexperience probably does shine through at times and costs them, but I also think that that youthfulness can be their real strength at times as well. So when you have a squad with that sort of makeup, you're probably always likely to get those patches of inconsistency and those bumps throughout the season. I think we've seen that from Blackburn, and it feels like this squad as it is right now is probably still a season or so away from a proper top 6 challenge. But we have seen this Blackburn side under John Dole Thomason go on a really good run of form before, so I wouldn't completely discount that. Slap bang in the middle of the table, the bookies then have my side, Preston North End. Now we are still holding on to a spot in the top 6 going into this international break. Preston currently sit 5th in the league table, but I do understand why the bookies would have us a little bit further down. We've just been on quite a dodgy run of form where we went 7 games without a win. I do think we have that in us, but we've responded to that before this international break with back-to-back wins. Our underlying numbers haven't been amazing so far this season in terms of chances created. For shots faced as well, we look to be a mid-table side. More often than not, that does tend to average out over a full season, so not surprised the bookies have us slap bang in the middle of the table at the moment. With that being said, the longer we can hold on to this spot in the top 6, the more you start to question what could be possible. Now in 11th place, the bookies then have Watford, which is a climb of 7 places from last time. They are on a good unbeaten run right now, having not lost any of their last 6 championship matches. With that being said, I still hold a few reservations over this Watford side where I'm not totally convinced they will be a top half side come the end of the season. If we look at their run of fixtures recently, 5 of their last 6 games have all been against bottom half opposition. They've not had a game against any top 6 challenges in that sort of run of fixtures that they've gone unbeaten in. And after this international break, the fixtures do flip quite harshly on Watford, and I would expect maybe a little bit of a regression to the mean in that run. With that being said, you can only beat the teams put in front of you, and Watford have been doing that recently. For me personally, I see them being mid-table at the end of the season, probably a little bit lower than this position that the bookies currently have them in 11th place, but if they continue to ride this crest of a wave of this unbeaten run that they're on right now, who knows? Next up then, and with a big bump up in the bookies' estimations, we've got Stoke City also rising 7 places from when we did this video last time. Now, Stoke have been on a really good run of form recently, and they've absolutely shot up the championship table. Crazy to think that after game week 11, they were 21st in the league, but they've since risen 7 places from that and are currently on a good run. So yeah, I could understand why the bookies have bumped Stoke up so much. Another bump up by the bookies, up 5 places from last time. We then have Cardiff, who have pleasantly surprised me and I think a lot of people so far this season. I know they lost that game right before the international break in quite dramatic circumstances against Norwich, but on the whole, I've been really impressed with them so far, and it does feel like they will catch a lot of sides out this season. They're 9th in the table in real life right now, and that's exactly where the bookies have them finishing as things stand. 8th place, we've got Hull City, who have just been a very solid outfit on the whole so far this season. They've been bumped up 2 places from last time, and they've had a massive overall rise from the bookies' odds at the very start of the season. The bookies had Hull really low down at the start. They've moved all the way up to 8th gradually. Throughout each international break, they've tended to rise up a place or 2. They're currently 8th in the bookies' end of season predictions. Then just missing out on the top 6 for the bookies right now, it is West Brom. Now they have been on a really good run of form leading up to this international break, then lost that very narrow game against Southampton, where all in all, I thought that Carlos Corberán's men actually put in a really decent performance away at a good Southampton side and could have easily nicked a result there. The bookies have them just falling short. I think this is the area of the table where a lot of people think the Baggies will be this season. Plenty, I'm sure, will think they'll get over the line, where others think they'll just fall short. Making it into the top 6 and with no changes in their position from last time, the bookies then have Sunderland. Now this is exactly where Sunderland are in the table in real life, and based on the current promotion odds, that's where the bookies have them. Sunderland have the 6th best odds to be promoted as things stand. Then with a bump up of 2 places from last time, the bookies have Middlesbrough, who have been on a wild journey throughout the season in the bookies promotion and relegation odds. It was an awful start to the season that Borough got off to. Before a ball had been kicked, they were one of the most heavily backed sides for promotion. They drastically fell off from then, but have been gradually making their way up back ever since. Obviously, it was a tremendous result for Michael Carrick's men right before the international break against Leicester, showing that they can cut it with those top sides in the division. And right now, I'd say a finish of 5th at the end of the season is pretty reasonable for Michael Carrick's side with what they've shown they're capable of. The top four is where things get really interesting though. In fourth place, the Bookies then have Southampton, and that's not a change from last time. The Bookies in the last international break had Southampton with the fourth best odds for promotion, and that's still where they have them today. Now, Southampton did hit a bit of a rocky patch in one part of the season, but they've more than recovered since that point, have scored plenty of late goals along the way, but they have had that killer instinct about them recently, and that's what promotion outfits are made out of. It's a good unbeaten run they currently find themselves on, and if there is a slip up in one of those sides in the top two, Southampton look like they're capable of capitalising on a few mistakes right now. But the next call by the Bookies is arguably their biggest one yet. Despite Ipswich being on a 12-game unbeaten run, they've actually knocked them down one place in the promotion standings. Ipswich sliding down to third in the table. Now, Ipswich have been on a really interesting run recently, obviously. 12 games unbeaten is absolutely staggering. They've done a magnificent job to go ahead and maintain that record. Performance levels have been a little bit up and down. They've fluctuated quite a bit between the last international break and this part of the season right here. And obviously, the obvious weakness that a lot of people have picked up upon is the amount of goals they've been conceding recently and whether or not that's sustainable for a promotion bid in the top two. But the amount of goals they're scoring right now, particularly at Portman Road, is absolutely off the charts. In their first 16 league matches, they've scored 36 goals, which blows everyone else in the Championship out of the water. Now, at the start of the season, even finishing, remotely close to the top six would have been seen as a massive stride forward for this Ipswich side in their first season back up in the Championship. But they're now in a position where they are 8 points clear of Leeds in third. They've only lost one of their opening 16 matches this season, but for whatever reason, the Bookies thinks that one of the sides below them might be about to close in. And I must admit, the promotion odds are quite close at this region of the table, but the Bookies have gone ahead and bumped up Leeds by one place from last time. Now, Leeds on the whole have been on a really good run of form recently under Daniel Farke. They've been fantastic to watch, and on their day, I think along with Ipswich, are one of the best attacking units in the league. With that front four they've got, the interchange in play is absolutely fantastic. They've won 6 of their last 7 matches, and I think are more than capable of going on an extended run of wins like we've already seen Leicester and the like doing in the past. What Leeds need to do now, though, to climb above Ipswich is make 8 points up on them, which won't be easy. But then still coming in at the top of the tree with being the odds-on side for promotion right now and the overwhelming favourites to win the Championship, it is still Leicester City. Now, Leicester have had a bit of a wobble recently, and heading into this international break are coming into it on the back of 2 consecutive 1-0 losses. Obviously, 2 very tight games that Leicester were on the wrong end of, those defeats against Leeds and Middlesbrough. It will be interesting to see how they bounce back. What I would say is their run over this festive period is pretty decent. I think 6 of their next 7 matches are up against sides currently in the bottom half of the table, which I'd back Leicester to win all of those matches, to be honest. And if they do roll out that many wins throughout the festive period, then I wouldn't have any concerns with them whatsoever. There we have it though, guys. That will now wrap it up for today's video. A bit of an update on what the Bookies are currently fancying for the end of season promotion and relegation odds. Do you agree with the Bookies' verdicts, and how much do you think these will change between now and the next international break? Let me know down below. Apart from that though, guys, thank you very much for tuning in. If you did go in to enjoy, make sure to leave a like. Do stick around and subscribe for some regular Championship content, and I'll see you all in the next one.